I miss your skin, miss your touch. I never thought it hurt this much. I hate this feeling in my gut. I wish you.
Alright, so the boys have a plan. They send Garth, Gilby Garth. They send Garth, who we're all delighted but sad to see, since this means he'll be dead soon, to go infiltrate Michael's club. You'll be Michael today. Meanwhile, Ketch finds the Kinder Egg surprise they're looking for and sends it to them by mail. Then they get a clue where Kaya and her fancy spear are, so with so much to do, they realize that there's 4 of them and they can split up. Cass and Dean go to a recycling plant where they fiddle around before talking to Kaya. You'll be Kaya. She decides to give them their spear, but doesn't bother to join them in battle because, well, the budget can only afford 1 guest star this week. Sam and Jack go visit the postal place, where they break in and steal the prize egg of the Easter hunt. Then Michael appears and destroys the egg with just the sheer power of his mojo. He kidnaps Jack because... So the heroes remaining all decide to meet up. Sam decides enough of this and storms the building for that sweet, sweet solo XP and gets Jack out on his own. Everyone finally arrives and they all head in together. Castiel gets beaten up for a while, in a fitting metaphor for how the writers have been treating him, before the rest of the boys jump in to reveal that it was a surprise birthday party all along. Michael is so thrilled that he just summons all the monsters back to the building for cake and ice cream. Then, after the party, he goes back into Dean and begins breaking things.
Wish you would just leave, 'cause I can never walk away.
You hear that? Somebody better get the phone because... Well, okay, not exactly. Michael wasn't really fully in Dean all along. He just left a back door open, or maybe kept a foot in place. We're not really sure on the details, but my point was that Dean was never really given up or freed, so let's compromise and say I'll get half of credit for this. I know some might ask, Nate, don't you get tired of being right all the time? The stories just bore you now. No. No more than a chef who knows how food is prepared gets bored of that food. We all rewatch our favorite movies multiple times, don't we? Shock and twist are not the only measure of how good a story is. If anything, I find myself appreciating good stories more as I keep working to understand how the parts are constructed and the players are moved and things are executed. For example, gives us a good example of one of the principles of storytelling. I know what some are probably saying, who cares about the rules or the principles? It's not like the story police are going to come and throw you in language jail for breaking one of them. And no, but let's think a moment about Supernatural. Originally, a conceit of the show was that it took place in our world. If you looked around at the dark streets at night, you might just see a black Impala driving around the corner. Yes, this has not really applied to the show since at least Season 6's The French Mistake, and it was buried even further in Season 12 when Lucifer jumped into the body of the president. Let's have you be the president. Now, this person he possessed was somebody that had no equivalent here. But then the show had to go, and at the end of Season 13, reveal that Trump was actually the POTUS in the supernatural world. And the only reason was because that's the way it is in our world instead of the show's continuity. So let's think about this latest episode of Season 14. Michael is unleashing an army of monsters onto a sizable American city. The result of this will not only be devastating, but large enough to garner national attention in the America of this story. This is the equivalent of a natural disaster. Problem is, you can't really show this on a TV show budget. You'll have to try and imply this idea to the audience using various means. Now, what would be one method we could use to signal this fact in the story? Oh, we could have president show up, since in America he tends to visit cities and areas hit by natural disasters. Now, see how this all comes together? Had the show maintained its continuity, then all they would need to do is go get the actor who previously portrayed the president and bring him back for the aftermath of Michael's plan, and this would signal to the audience, oh wow, things are really bad. But the show had to go and make a Trump joke. So now if you wanted the same effect, you'll have to try to get Trump to guest star or find yourself a lookalike. And think about it for a minute. Did the writers know that Michael was going to send out his attack dogs on a large American city when they wrote the season 13 finale? Given what we're informed about schedule in the writing room, no, probably not. But you see, if they had followed the rules of storytelling and not messed things up for a one-off joke, then when they were working and this moment came up in season 14, they would have an extra tool available to them. And this is what I'm always on about. Follow the rules of storytelling, keep things consistent, and you'll find opportunities and things coming together in the future that you never would have foreseen. Although, this is all assuming Michael's plan actually goes off. It's entirely possible, probable even, for there to be a reveal that Sam pulled a switch at the post office when he and Jack got the egg. Michael may have actually destroyed a dummy egg, and Sam is about to pull out a real one and expel Michael from his brother. Yeah, he would probably reveal that they knew something was up with Dean all along and was sometimes feeding him false information through the series. After all, in episode 3 of The Scar, Castiel is reading Dean's mind and didn't react at all. But then in episode 5, Nightmare Logic of the same season, Jin reads his mind and freaks out. So maybe the writers are going to give us a flashback where, while Dean is off screen, Castiel is telling Sam what he found, and then they hatch a long-term plan. We'll see. But that's all dealing with what comes after the episode. What about the episode itself? This was very meh, wasn't it? Things really were mixed. It seems like for every good decision, a bad one had to be made. Remembering that the boys had a werewolf ally and were recruiting him to help, that was awesome. And not just because I like Garth and always enjoy DJ Qualis's, how's the name's pronounced, performances, yet we don't see a flurry of activity around the bunker like we did at the beginning of the season. There's a line about deploying hunters around the city, but nothing to really indicate whether this is the crew Sam has been working with this whole time, or if it's just general help. You know, we don't see Sam refer to any of them by names and send them out. We don't even hear the boys on the phone mentioning Mary or Bobby and calling them in. I can understand needing some downtime, but if there was ever a moment to pull these two out of retirement and tell them to come help, now would be it. And it would have been nice to hear the other Wayward Sisters at least mentioned. I kind of like that Dark Kaya is being used and not just forgotten, but every time she's involved in a scene, it feels like we've stepped into another dimension. Why is Dean just demanding the spear? Why not bring Kaya along? They're going up against an archangel. You could probably use the extra body. Why doesn't she or Dean or Cass even bother proposing this idea? Let's imagine the scene went like this. Give me the spear. I'll come along. I'll kill Michael. I can't let you do that. Why not, Dean? We could use the help. Because of Joe and Ellen. You remember, don't you, Cass? We were going to kill Lucifer, and you were with us, along with Ellen and Joe Harville. They didn't make it. They died trying to help us. That's why, Kaya. Because I can't have the soul of another dead ally weighing on my conscience. Yeah, I mean, that's just a rough draft, and I'm a horrible voice actor, but, you know, let Jensen tweak it a bit, better fit Dean, and we could have a really powerful and emotional scene that would give us a great character moment for everyone involved. Instead, he just barks and bullies her into giving it up, and they make a deal, and yeah, this show can do better. But I did like that we finally had Dean acknowledge that Sam and Castiel went through something similar hosting Lucifer. Actually, why doesn't this episode really resonate like Season 5's Abandon All Hope? The makers even put in the effort to have callbacks. Like when Michael is just feeding Castiel, it's reminiscent of the time Lucifer, using Sam, did that to Dean in Season 5's finale, Swan Song. And then Sam tossing the spear to Dean was reminiscent of his passing the Archangel Blade to him in the previous season's finale, Let the Good Times Roll. The episodes want us to feel like this is finale. Does it not just because we know this is midway through a season? Maybe. But then this show could finally decide that they were going to end Michael here and start a new arc for the second half of the season, which I've been saying they need to have done all along. So why don't we believe them? Why doesn't it feel like the end? Going back to what we talked about earlier, it really comes down to the rules of stories. Let's take one example. I was annoyed that Michael, when he left his rental vessel, she collapsed. Because in the show, demons are the ones that leave corpses. Angels have always healed the bodies they occupied if they didn't burn out or explode. We did see that archangels would leave their host a gibbering mess, but in Season 5's The Song Remains the Same, Michael revealed that he wouldn't have that side effect, that John would remain sane and intact. In fact, we kind of saw that when the whole season started out and he left Dean. So there was no reason for the body to just fall. Imagine in a moment that rewrote this scene trying to maintain that rule. So you've got Dean holding Michael dead to rights, and in that moment, Michael jumped into Dean, stabbed his old vessel dead, and then broke the spear. To the audience and the other characters, this scene would appear like they had won, that everything was pulled off for a second. Then there would be the reveal. And at that moment, we would realize that there were a few tiny clues in the scene that at first didn't make sense, but now it all fell into place. Instead, we had Dean holding an archangel which can teleport spear point for way too long. The audience knew something was going wrong the moment Dean stopped to taunt. It's little things that matter to the audience, even if they don't realize it. What if this season the boys had spent time just working on and trying to construct a new Lance of Michael? Its power was in the new Lance of Michael. In the runes, after all. Next we see, I wonder if Kaya's spear is her world's equivalent of that weapon. Anyway, why don't we see the boys painting angel wards on the building to try and contain Michael? While Castiel is out distracting them, they don't bother setting up a holy oil trap. I will admit, I did like it when Ketch pointed out that part of the boys' troubles were their consequences of wrecking the British men of letters. An extra line of them acknowledging that they needed to coordinate a great number of hunters, which the Brits were trying to do 2 seasons ago, would have been a nice additional bonus. Still, I like it when heroes have setbacks because of consequences of their actions, even when the actions were the right ones, because that's the way it works out in real life. Still, when you see the boys and our protagonists, when they are working and struggling to get every tiny edge that they can against their enemy, not just in this episode, but in multiple episodes throughout the season, the audience then starts to believe that the situation is serious. When everything they've had before is being brought up and used, we consider that this might be it. They might win this time. But when you just half-ass it, the audience doesn't buy it as much. The other part of it is that Michael still doesn't have much of a character. I'll save that discussion for another day since this video has been going on pretty long. For the episode, The Spear, I'm going to give this a score of 2 salt shells out of 5. Wasn't awful. The characters were mostly consistent, and there was only a minor break from canon, so that's typically would be about a 3 score. But this episode really wanted to be a powerful punch to the gut. And it wasn't. It could have been. There was potential for this episode to have really shined, and possibly been the first 5-shell winner for the season. So, for that, I'm docking it a shell. Until next time, thank you for watching, and have a great day.
You can have my body, I've lost control. Can't live on my own anymore. Have my body, just not my soul.